We are back in the book of Luke since we're at a neighborhood church weekend, and I'm super excited to be able to sit down and ask some questions of our Walnut Creek area pastor, Adrian Singaris. Thanks so much for being here to teach us this week, and I love this message. I love the messages about how we include everyone, even though it is maybe one of the most difficult things.
A hard thing to do.
It really is. We like these, setting up a gate and going, well, these people don't get in.
Yeah.
These people stay out, right? We kind of like that. But let's talk real life. How do we know when to stay in a conversation and when it's time to, like Jesus did, to walk through the crowd and move on? What's kind of been a gut check for you?
That's the tricky part, isn't it? I think part of it is following the direction that we see Jesus follow and listening to what's going on inside us that Paul really addresses. Am I staying in a conversation because I have this immature desire to win? I have this immature desire to beat you at a theological argument or whatever it is. Is it that? Is there motivation inside me that isn't loving you and caring for you and serving you? If I'm in the conversation and my goal and my words and the tone that I'm using still loves you, cares for you, and wants what's best for you, then we can stay in that. But the moment that my selfish desires of winning, the immaturity, the evil desires that Paul talks about, as soon as those take over, I really need to leave because you're going to feel it. And I'm going to give in to just wanting to win rather than wanting to serve and care for you.
That's so good, Adrian. I think
It's hard to do. It's impossible for some of us.
It's our society. It's our culture. It's like our leaders are showing that if you are not winning, you are losing. There's this scarcity model, and I think that's absolutely so countercultural.
Well, I think the big part of it is, like we see with Jesus, his values and priorities, they're not always ours. His value and priority is to always love and always serve and always share truth. Ours, mine at least, can shift into winning because my culture, the culture that I grew up in, that I live with, values winning so much that we see a disagreement as a debate that can be won rather than seeing it as an opportunity for us to care for each other or for me to lovingly serve you. If I can shift my thinking and see through that lens, the tone that I'm talking through, the way, the words, even the phrases that I use will be different. And that's what sometimes can make it easier to recognize, I reached that tipping point where it's about winning. I just want to beat you now because somehow you hit that button that makes me care more about winning than about being kind.
Gosh, that's really good. I love that. What a great answer. You also said, and I'm not going to quote you here, but you said that Jesus included people that others didn't want included. And what's now a modern day example of someone we might be tempted to not include? And how do we challenge that in ourselves or in our church?
Well, off the top of my head, I would say Dodgers fans.
Obviously.
So obviously, no, I think people that don't agree with us, people that don't care for us or haven't been nice to us. I mean, that's really what was going on in the synagogue, is they're looking at Jesus include Gentiles, who, especially at that time, the Jews would have looked at and said, they have not been kind to us. They don't agree with us. They're not us. And we humans tend to think in terms of us and them. It makes us feel comfortable. It makes us feel comfortable to think in terms of us and them, and we see an absolute absence of that thinking with Jesus. Jesus comes and says everyone is welcome in the kingdom of God. Everyone. And that's what made the Jews in that synagogue want to kill Jesus. It was a violent reaction because we feel unsafe when the doors are that wide open. And I think that's the challenge for us, is to take the focus off of who is my neighbor, like that parable where that person asks Jesus. Well, it says, Jesus, who's my neighbor? Who am I obligated to be kind to and to serve? And Jesus doesn't answer that question. He flips it and says, are you being neighborly? Are you the kind of person who serves and cares and loves? And I think that's got to be the shift for me, because this is super hard for me, but that's the shift that I have to make, that we all have to make if we're following Jesus, is to stop looking at others saying, those are the people that are welcome, and start looking at ourselves and saying, am I as welcoming as Jesus? Because that will change our perspective, as well as
100%.
the people that, the door is much wider when we say, am I as welcoming as Jesus?
Oof, that's really, really good. You said it, that you love being right. I love being
yeah.
right. Adrian, I love it.
It's
I'm addicted to it.
It's a horrible addiction.
Yes.
Yeah, which is a great word. You're addicted to it. That's really what it is.
Can you wrap it up for us and say, here's some advice that I would give to somebody who is really struggling with needing to win?
Honestly, that's me. And if anyone has that advice, please email me. But I would say what's been helpful for me is to prepare beforehand. If I know that you and I are going to have a conversation about something that we disagree on, if I pray beforehand, Jesus, help me to seek to be kind more than I seek to win. Even that prayer is difficult. But I think that's one of the things. The second thing would be to listen more than I speak. And that is super challenging. I love the sound of my own voice, apparently.
I do too.
And the thing too is that desire to win, that debate perspective that we have, is encouraged in our culture and by others. And so for me, I have to recognize when I feel encouraged to win in a debate rather than to problem solve or to value kindness and love and serving someone more than winning or being right or scoring that point. And that's a difficult tension, but our words shift. I notice it in myself. I've noticed in myself that the words I use and the phrases I use shift when I want to value you and care for you and serve you and seek truth, as opposed to when I just want to be right. I will use different language when I just want to be right. And being able to recognize that in myself has helped me to go, oh, I'm tipping over into that again.
Well, I appreciate the advice that you give us here, even if it's something that you're still working through yourself.
Yeah, if you ask my wife, she'd be like, yeah, it's not working.
Not at all. Well, here's the challenge, folks, this week. Before you post, before you argue, before you walk away, why don't you pause and ask, what does love require of me right now? And then do that thing. That might look like listening longer, like Adrian said, or stepping away from an unhelpful argument, including someone you'd normally avoid, or serving somebody who cannot repay you. How about that? And if we did that, if we made it our habit to stay focused on the mission of Jesus and respond with love instead of defensiveness, imagine the kind of community we'd become. We'd be known not for how loud we are or how well we present our argument, but for how kind we are. Not for how many debates we win, but for how well we love. And that could change our neighborhoods, our workplaces, and maybe even the internet. Let's be those people. Let's live like Jesus did, clear, compassionate, and unshakably focused on love. And then let me put a question here on the screen that you can use to go a little bit further in exploring all of these truths. We're going to leave it up for a few minutes, along with a link to our Zoom neighborhood church. And I want you to turn to someone and attempt to answer this question, or maybe answer it in the chat or on Neighborhood Church Online. Throw it maybe in a group text if you can't attend, or talk with friends, or write it at the top of the page for today's journal entry. Here's the question. Who is someone I've struggled to include? And what would love require of me towards them today? I'll see you next time.